Welcome to the Wisdom Words Podcast with Pastors Dale and Joel Evrist. This podcast draws wisdom from the Word to engage the questions of today.
Welcome, everybody. For those who are new with us, my name is Joel, and I'm here with my dad, Pastor Dale, also known as PD. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, so very glad to have you with us today.
Welcome to episode 13. We're in a series about living healthy as a Christian. We're covering topics like physical health, nutrition, rest and recovery, and finding community and partnership in your pursuit of healthy living. We're in a world with thousands of diets and doctors, influencers, athletes, books, podcasts, pills, potions, training protocols, and most of all, opinions. Our hope is that these episodes will cut through the unhelpful noise to give you some basic and biblical principles for living healthy as a Christian. Make sure to listen to our first two episodes on biblical principles of stewardship for health and a basic framework for how to move, eat, recover, and partner well in your health journey. On this episode, we're going to hear stories from men and women of different ages and stages of life and how they've attempted to steward their health. PD, anything you want to say before we listen to our guests?
I just want to encourage you that these are really strong practitioners of what we're talking about. But they're normal people, just like you and just like us. But they have some real moral authority and spiritual authority to speak to these things because they live very well-balanced lives, very full lives. And they have given themselves to finding a healthy balance in their lives, including paying attention to their diet and paying attention to fitness to really be as healthy as they possibly can be. So you're really going to enjoy listening to them, and I would encourage you to just open your heart to what they have to say.
All right, I got a chance to sit down with our amazing guests who love Jesus and they're stewarding their health to serve the Lord. Let's listen in. We are here with Ashton and Kelsey Tate. Thank you guys for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So to set a little bit of context, Ashton and Kelsey are husband and wife, and they love the Lord. Ashton owns a company that specializes particularly in health curriculum. Ashton has a series of different certifications in personal training, nutrition. He went to Arizona State for things in the realms of exercise science, kinesiology, nutrition, etc. Kelsey is a nurse practitioner. So she is a nurse practitioner at Vanderbilt Hospital, which is probably the most reputable hospital in our state and one of the most in the nation, sought after in the nation. And so they are very intelligent people who I think walk out these pillars really, really well, and also are super relatable when it comes to the changes and challenges that come in life. So we'll start with you, Ashton. Over the years, these pillars of eating well, moving well, recovering well, partnering well, what are some things that have worked for you, mindset-wise, but also practically speaking?
I mean, I think when I first started being healthy, a lot of it, I started when I was kind of coming out of high school. And, for me, a lot of it was to impress girls. You're a teenage boy and you're like, okay, I want to be attractive. And as I've kind of grown up, it was like, man, that's not sustainable. That's not really why we need to be doing this long term. And eventually, if that's the only reason why you want to be healthy, it's not gonna keep you going for long. And so I've learned over the years, to really ask that question of why, and understand the fact that God's given me this body to do great things with. I want to steward it well to be able to serve others. And so I think something that's helped me to be more sustainable is not to look at others and look at, the industry and fitness, professionals who are, unattainable and be, oh man, I should be like that. It's God, what have you called me to do? Mm-hmm. And how can my health help me to do that with excellence and to serve others and to just be available for what God's called me to. So I think that mindset shift, I didn't start there. I wasn't thinking about that as a teenage, kid, but as I've grown, it's really become something where that's kind of at the forefront of my mind when I think about routines and health and kind of daily life. So
that's super helpful. What about you, Kelsey? What's worked for you over the years, mindset wise, or even practically, with moving well, eating well, recovering well, partnering well?
Yeah, I think probably the principal thing that has really anchored me throughout different seasons of life is just keeping the Lord in the middle of it. I think if you're going to try to be a Christian and quote unquote be healthy and you don't invite the Lord into it, you're going to be stuck and frustrated no matter what season you're in. And so I think that's been the biggest thing. Is there's a big shift in my sort of early 20s of just really bringing the Lord into it and hearing what he has to say, and then partnering with the same people over over the long haul to really, for women, it's not just your body. We're mind, body, soul. And so keeping all of those things, being able to process, for me, probably my biggest growth came just being married to my husband and being able to have that accountability partner for, consistently. And that helped me be consistent. So I'd say that made the biggest difference for sure.
That's really helpful to hear, that having that accountability from your spouse has been one of the things that have helped you guys stay consistent.
Huge.
Ashton, what would you say are some how are you moving right now? Or what are some things when it comes to how you move and how you eat, how you recover? What are some basic things that work for you? You found, okay, I like these things, I can sustain these things, I like how they make me feel, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I try to move in some way every day. And so, when I was younger, I started a lot more intense. You're like, oh, I have to just every time I'm moving, every time I'm in the gym, I have to just destroy my body or else I'm not doing anything. And it's like, and then you realize you feel horrible all the time. And it's like, man, I this is not for the short run. It's for long term. How can I live out these habits over 20, 30, 40, years? And so, yeah, for me, I do CrossFit currently. And I like a lot of that style of training, and it's helpful to have kind of those around me. I do a lot of other, supplemental stuff. Sometimes I go to Kelsey's gym as well too with her on the weekends and kind of do some supplemental work. But yeah, a lot of CrossFit and running and just kind of functional, simple, movement. Try to get it in, 5-6 days a week or so.
Kelsey, you move a little bit differently. Ashton's doing more of the CrossFit thing and is doing awesome at that. What's kind of worked for you over the years as far as movement or nutrition, etc.?
Yeah. Well, I went ahead and just let myself not be a class person. I learned that early on. I have go to a local gym that's close to my house, taking the friction out of, driving 20 minutes to a gym. I go to the closest one to my house. Now, I, too, try to move every day. I think that's really big in our house. I know I feel the difference between, it's hard to get moving, but once you're moving, I just try to stay moving because it's easier. It's just easier. And then we eat pretty clean. And I guess what I mean by that is really big on dark green leafy vegetables. And we really try to just plan ahead on our meals. I think the biggest thing is people generally know how to eat, but if you're not planning to eat well and fuel your body within the context of your life and your actual schedule, it doesn't actually happen. And so we are pretty intentional. Every week we'll meal prep and try to source our food from good sources. So I'd say we keep it simple. Also, basics in our house is we get sleep. We go to bed on time. We get, 8 hours of sleep is what we try to get. We're also drinking tons of water. I'm drinking 3 to 4 liters of water a day. And those are just basic things that we never fudge on just because, you can't do the other things without doing those things. Those are just some of the things I do. Strength and resistance training in the gym, and then cardiovascularly. When I'm exercising, I really just focus on like, what do I want to be able to do with my body just for like functionally showing up in my life? I actually work on the 10th floor, and I've been doing the Stairmaster more because I want to be able to walk up the 10th floor on my own with my load of stuff to work, just because that's functionally something I want to be able to do. So that's kind of what informs my framework when I'm working out.
I love that. All right. I got to out you guys on something, okay? Because I actually think it's really going to help people who are listening. One of the things, well, two things. First of all, one of the things you guys like to do to celebrate is eat.
Yeah.
Okay. And also, you guys have a massive family between the two of you. And so there's like 900 birthdays, and then there's Thanksgiving, and there's Valentine's, and there's Mother's Day, and there's just constant eating, constant big meals that are being prepared. How do you do it so that our listeners can hear and go, oh, that's cool. So I can do that kind of stuff as long as I what?
I mean, nutrition is probably the toughest thing for me. I mean, some of my background just, I was like 300 pounds when I was in middle and high school, and losing all that weight and there's a whole story there. But nutrition is probably the hardest thing for me. I'm pretty consistent at moving. It's not really an issue. Sleep and rest. I've always been really, really good with that. But nutritionally, it's feasting and enjoying food, it's a balance, and like we talk about in our curriculum with students is food as fuel and food as fun. Most of the time food is fuel, and then some of the time it's okay to enjoy food as fun. And part of my and again, I'm not always perfect at this because I really like food. That we're texting all the time. But for me, a framework that I try to think of in my mind is this feasting, or is what I'm eating about me, or is it about others? And I think a lot of times when we look at the Bible, most of the time when feasting is looked at or talked about in a good way, it's about others and coming around with others and celebrating with others. And so for me, and again, I'm not always perfect at this, but when I'm looking at feasting and coming around with others, I try to make it about them, not about what I can get out of that feast. And I try not to go crazy with stuff when I'm alone, right? I'm, sitting by yourself, watching TV, eating a bunch of, it's like, that's fun sometimes, and it's okay to do sometimes. But for me, trying to make those times of feasting and enjoying food about others, and then just balancing and making sure that, you're not using it and enabling kind of yourself to do whatever you want to do. Because I'm very on or off. I'm on at work and I'm working and I'm not resting. I don't want to. And then but it's the same thing with food. I'm a very on or off person, and so I'm either eating perfect and hitting what I need to hit for on a weekday, or you go to a birthday and you're like, I'm not even thinking about. I'm doing whatever I want, and so it's very easy for me to. Or it's hard for me to kind of make sure, okay, I'm on all the time and I'm listening to the Lord and He's helping me with what that needs to look like kind of in each setting and season. And so
I love that. And Kelsey, you married into this massive family that Ashton's a part of, with 900 birthdays and anniversaries and Mother's Day and all this kind of stuff. What's that been like for you? What are some guidelines for you guys to be able to celebrate together as a couple? Special occasions that you guys have, as well as all these big meals with family, but do it in a way where it's productive. What would have been some guidelines for you tried to think through? Well,
and her family is just, her family is like Southern Baptist. So her dad, her parents, they make
a lot of good food in our life.
Make more rich food than my family. And it's amazing. It's my favorite thing ever. But it's not just my family.
Totally.
I love this question because I spent the first 20 years of my life not eating cake at birthday parties. And I think one of the most freeing revelations from the Lord that I got was just that, reading through the Bible, you see how God instructs His people, and also just knowing physiologically how we're made. We are made to fast. We're made to feast. We're made to be fueled. We're made to celebrate. We're made to fellowship with others. And food is a part of all of that. And that's not new. It's been a part of it since the beginning of time. And God knows that, and he wants to speak into that. And so, Americans in general are bad at this. I would say women have a really hard time with it. But one of our things that we talk about in our house all the time is balance and just walking into balance. We have permission to listen to the Lord if you're going into a celebration and enjoy and have fun. But also there's a balance even in that, even in the celebrating. There's a balance even in the fasting. There's a balance even in the day before. A big thing that I feel like I want people to grow up, especially kids grow up being able to do better that our generation didn't get, was just listening to your body. And if you feel like you need to go on a extra walk after dinner, go on that extra walk. You probably have some pent up energy you need to get out, and that's okay. Just listening to your body throughout all those things. And then the Holy Spirit, of course, helps guide you. But you get to walk in a balance, and you get to experience the joy of what the Lord brings to you through friends and family. But also you feel good when you fast for 2 days at the beginning of the year after the holidays, and you feel clean and good and ready and high energy. And it just, I don't know, it gets me excited because I think balance is just the key to all of this. It's the key to fitting it into your life and making it work for you.
Yeah, you guys do a really good job at thinking through what is going to be beneficial. What's going to be beneficial to the people around me? What's going to be beneficial to me personally? And so for our listeners, I just think that's really helpful to them, where, like you said, you don't have to be that person that shows up at every birthday party and thinks that, I can't eat cake because if I eat the cake, it's bad or what. No, there are ways to feast for strength and for relationship. And then there's balance with that and how we navigate those things. Okay. I want to talk with you guys about some challenges that you've had through the years with, it could be one of those things, the eating, the moving, or just in general, some challenges that you've faced over the years when it comes to living healthy as a Christian. I'll start with you, Kelsey. You have a unique story. What are some challenges you've overcome? Yeah.
I have a huge heart for just, 21st century American women in this kind of culture that we're growing up in. And so I had a story of just pretty much from the beginning of being able to remember in my life of just restricting and really being uncomfortable in my body. And then I realized pretty early on, young, that I could use food as a way to, affect my body in a way that I wanted to, which was to just be small. Ultimately, what set me free was realizing that I was actually just serving another master. I've seen the most fruit and the most spiritual growth actually through that challenge, and how the Lord just brought, it was mainly through himself and through people, and knowing his word and knowing his design for our bodies, and how we can steward our bodies in a way that worship him, but also how he cares about all the things. I think when we try to separate them out and think that, we just need to get our body in the right place, or we just need to get our mind in the right place. It's all connected. Mm-hmm. And the one through thread through all of that is the Lord. And so it was really getting my relationship with the Lord in the right place and actually finding out who he is as a good father is what actually set me free.
How the enemy went after something in your life has become and will continue to become a major part of your ministry to the world, which is caring for people's bodies.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten to spend a lot of time around you in active circumstances, food circumstances, and you're just free and joyful because your focus is not on a certain size, but your focus is on, am I taking good care of what God has given me, and am I cooperating with the way he's designed me? Am I eating enough?
That's
am I moving enough? Am I sleeping enough? You just have such joy and freedom in so many different circumstances. Ashton, what would you say for you has been a challenge or two that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, I mean, I think over the years, just focusing on being perfected and not being perfect, like it with me, again, it's food. I was pretty overweight for a lot of my middle school and high school career, and yeah, it came out of a place of wanting food for comfort and being addicted to food and sugar, and there's still a lot of that I have to just take thoughts captive and have self-control and walk in the Spirit, and again, I'm not perfect with that stuff, but I have developed a love for healthier food and a love for getting the right things that my body needs instead of going to the things that maybe I don't need to be eating. And so a lot of it has been food over the years, and then also just recovery. I've always been pretty good about sleep, but when I was younger, it's a lot easier to not recover and not stretch and not all those different things that you need to be doing physically for your body. On days I try to keep a good kind of split of if I'm going to move for an hour, I try to spend 15 or so minutes in recovery. So whether that's stretching or active recovery, we have a hot tub like spa that we got that I'll get in and stretch in, stuff like that. And so for me, I try to keep that rule of if I'm going to train for an hour, I got to spend about 15 minutes. And it doesn't always have to be right after that workout if I have to, get in a meeting or something like that, but I try to stretch for a little bit. And then sometimes it's a little bit later in the day, or sometimes it's in how I'm warming up and doing some active recovery, stuff like that. But for me, it's been a lot of, eating and just having to have self-control, because at the end of the day, a lot of people, I think, in America struggle with nutrition and food, and it really seems like everything is against us with all these companies trying to market us food. I mean, we were talking to Kelsey's parents the other day, and they're like, "Oh, I bought this amazing new brand of food," and I got home, and then you read because of the packaging, and then you get home and you're like, "Oh wow, like that's actually not very good for you. Like I just wasted all this money." And it's like, man, it feels like, last time I checked on Google, I think it was 9.6 billion results pop up if you type in how to be healthy, and it's like, what are you supposed to do with that? Like, how are we supposed to navigate all these different opinions and all these different things? And so for me, I think just keeping it simple and knowing yourself and saying, hey, like, I know what I need to be eating, and I know when I shouldn't need to be eating those things. And for me, it's, I know when I need to be having self-control and when I'm kind of going over the top. And I also know when I need to be enjoying food and giving myself permission to have that, that balance that we talk about. So, again, that's sustainability, not trying to be perfect, but I do want to be perfected and continually getting better. So
that's really good. Kelsey, if you could say just one thing to maybe a Kelsey out there or a younger Kelsey out there about living healthy as a Christian, something you thought, man, if I could have heard this when I was younger, that would really have helped me. What would that be?
Hear from the Lord about your stage in life and where you're at and what you're doing and what your calling is right then and there. And then giving yourself permission to really just be good at that and asking the Lord to figure out all the fine details around it. But I think you start to fight yourself and fight how your body was made when you are trying to be something that your season's not allowing. And so being able to just be where you're at and know that, what you do to fuel your body and move your body and support your body in whatever season you're in is so important, because it allows you to show up in all the things that you're doing well, but it doesn't need to be a hindrance. And so if you feel like you're constantly fighting your body and your body's constantly sort of not showing up for you in the way you think you should, take a second and ask the Lord, like, today, how do I need to wake up and move today? What does food need to look like today? If you're in school or working full time or have kids or postpartum or whatever that means, like knowing that the Lord has an answer for you for the exact season you're in, and it's gonna look different, and being okay with that. And I think, seeing some people in the seasons that they're in and giving yourself permission to be like, you know what, that's them in their season, but that's not where I'm at, and that's okay.
Right.
And then you can ask the Lord then you can go and really research, okay, I'm in a season where I can really get some good movement in. I really feel like I want to set these goals for myself. Great, then go do the research and go invest in that and get that knowledge. But don't do that if you're not ready for it to fit into the season you're in. And so I think that's one of the biggest pieces. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast. It's been super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having us.
Hey, we just want to take a minute and thank you again for joining us. We'd love for you to subscribe to the Wisdom Words podcast if you haven't already. If this episode is helping you, please share it with a friend or on social media so others can enjoy it. And if you'd like to support this ministry, you can head to Life Reach Resources or newsongnashville.com, click the Give tab, and support what we're doing. It means the world to us, and it helps us bring Bible-based content to you and folks all over the world. We are here with Emily Flynn. Emily, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of moral authority in this area. This is a big deal for you, living healthy as a Christian. So considering the 4 pillars of health that we've been discussing, what's worked for you through the years when it comes to moving well, eating well, recovering well, and partnering well?
Yeah, I'd say starting with moving well. I mean, movement is in our everyday life. I think that's like the fundamental reason why functional fitness is important and matters to upkeep and maintenance. So for me, I think, maybe even as a woman, I just wanted to prioritize strength training just to like protect bone density and like functional movement as I get older. And just muscle mass protecting like your organs. Like I feel like it just goes deeper in things that you don't see all the time for the things that really matter. So in my day-to-day, I'd say that I really focus on hypertrophy and just building muscle and like going through progressive overload with how I structure my workouts so that there is actually like some visible success in it, but also know that my body's using the food and the energy that I'm putting in it for good.
That's awesome. And for our listeners, hypertrophy is the opposite of atrophy. So when your muscles atrophy, that means they're losing tissue. Mm-hmm. Hypertrophy means adding lean tissue to your muscles. Mm-hmm. And that's a super helpful thing for everybody. And then also progressive overload just means doing a little bit more today than I did last time. Mm-hmm. It could be another rep. It could be a little bit more weight. It could be a little bit longer on a particular machine or a particular walk, a little bit further distance. But progressive overload just means over time you're doing more than you did last time.
Yes.
Yeah. What about eating well, recovering well, partnering well? What's worked for you over the years?
Yeah, I think something even to echo you and Pastor Dale, I think eating whole foods and maybe foods high in protein are the most beneficial for energy sustainability. I feel like that makes me feel my best when I'm eating things that are nutrient dense and just have a lot of good macros in them. So like when I start the day, I would normally frame my breakfast to be within 30 to 60 minutes of waking, drinking water before coffee. I feel like that was a mistake I used to make a lot where I would just dive into something to wake me up and then my cortisol would just kind of freak out and it was not ready to be sustained that way. So I think that was something that I've learned even recently too, to do the thing that maybe you don't want to do first, just because it will aid your body throughout the day and to whatever you have to get through throughout the day. So that was probably my point about eating, and also just prioritizing meal prep even. I feel like a lot of life can be quick, and so convenience-based eating is really easy to fall into. So for me, it's easy to have things that I've prepped that are whole foods, that are really simple meals that I can just pull together and then take with me if I have to be on the go, or just eat at home so that I can avoid eating things that might not fuel my body as well. Yeah,
that's really good. When we're talking about macros, we're talking about there are two kind of classifications that foods put into macronutrients, which has to do with protein,
yes,
fats, and carbohydrates. And then micronutrients has primarily to do with vitamins and minerals. And so when you hear the term nutrient dense, that just means foods that have a lot of vitamins and minerals in them and have good ratios of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. So that's really good. And then cortisol, that's a stress hormone. You know, that's that hormone that if a bear finds you in the woods,
Yes.
cortisol pumps
Yes.
along with other things to get you to run away. And so that's good for fight or flight.
Yeah.
But we don't want to get a lot of cortisol in our bodies. And sometimes when we drink too much caffeine, it ups our cortisol and causes us to stay in a state of fight or flight. And then there can be a lot of negative consequences to that. So you found drinking a good amount of water and getting a good amount of sleep has helped you with your hormone levels?
Yes, I think that has been such a game changer for me, and also into the recovery piece as well. I mean, just listening to your body. I think I used to think that it was kind of silly to just be intuitive with your body. I was like, well, that's not structured. How could that be successful? And then I realized that I think your body is highly intelligent, and God designed it that way to know that what we need and how to build it and maintain it. And so I think a big part of recovery now is listening to where I'm at even throughout the month and how I'm feeling, how much, does soreness really impact my next workout? Am I pushing through an injury, kind of like we talked about earlier? Or is this just a day that I need to not work out that part of my body and just move around it, but still use my body in a way that doesn't have to bring it to ultimate fatigue. And so if that means instead of strength training, even though that's my priority, I'm going on a walk or a run because that's easier on my joints or how I'm feeling that day, then that's still a win, So just mentally also just thinking about how to honor it, but also still stay on track.
Right.
So
it's really good about listening to your body. There's a difference between what is uncomfortable and doing what's uncomfortable versus what is painful or exhausting.
Right.
And we're not after pain and exhaustion.
Yeah.
And so there are those days where you can tell you just got to pull back a little bit. So that's really helpful. Just real quick, because I know you are a food prep pro. Okay, that's part of literally what you do for a living is food prep. Can you just give? I think a lot of times when people hear about food prepping and meals, they're like, I got to prep a filet mignon with a béarnaise sauce,
right,
and blanched asparagus and a 3-hour risotto.
Right.
Can you just give a couple examples of a lunch or a breakfast that you're prepping on the go, just so people can see how simple a meal can be?
Yes. Okay. So if we start with breakfast, I'd say most people have a cupcake tin in their house. I would whip up eggs, maybe cottage cheese or any kind of cheese, maybe a protein like sausage or bacon. I'd whip it up and I'd put it in there, and then I'd bake them, and then they stay good for 5 days. So that's really helpful because it's high in protein, still has the fats, all the good things. I'd say for lunch and dinners, I just find whatever protein's the biggest thing for me. So if I find a protein that I know I like and I'll eat it, then I'll just pair it with anything else and it'll get eaten too, honestly. So if I'm picking out a pack of ground beef and picking out a vegetable and a carb, I always say to the people that I work with is just pick something that you'll eat. Don't pick something that you think, I should eat this, but then you'll never eat it, because then you'll never eat it and you'll waste it and then you'll just feel bad about it. So I just would say starting where you're at is just finding the things that you like, that you'll eat. And if you want a sauce or something with it to make it more enjoyable, just pack that with it too. And then you'll know you'll eat it, which is helpful.
That's an awesome pro tip. Cook what you will eat, not what you think you should eat.
Right.
Okay. That's fantastic. That's an excellent tip. What changes have you had to make in these 4 pillars of health as life has gone on, or as you got married, or you were going through college, or getting into career? What are some adjustments you've had to make to moving, eating, recovering, and partnering with people?
That's a good question. I think the first thing that comes to mind is when I was in college, I was on a D1 golf team that required our workouts to be at 5 and 6 in the morning. And I did not realize it at the time, but my body was so deficient in all the nutrients and energy, and I just wasn't taking care of my overall health enough to maintain working out when my cortisol was just waking up also. So like my energy levels were low, my adrenal glands were just not producing what they needed to produce. And I think now I'm feeling the effects of that from doing that for 4 years. And so now if I can structure my workouts to be a little bit later in the morning, like even like 8 or 9 a.m. when I've actually eaten before, I've had good water, and I'm like feeling like I'm actually, fueled up to use the energy I just put in my body. I think that is something that used to be a challenge that now I feel like I have more autonomy over, which feels really good. I know that's not everyone's situation if you are in sports, but it's something that I think I would have considered talking about or just maneuvering my life. Like maybe that meant going to bed way earlier, waking up and somehow putting something in my body before those workouts. Because I think it just does a lot of damage. Like in the same way we maintain our body to grow, if we hurt our body, it will take a while to recover from that. So I think that was one challenge that I definitely would recommend people just consider when their energy is the highest and when they're able to fuel before they work out.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, so be encouraged, and that can change over the course of your life. Sometimes movement feels best in the morning in certain seasons. Other seasons, it's midday. Other seasons, it's afternoon, early evening. Other seasons, it's before bed. So you just kind of have to adjust with what feels good. Some people feel good training when they don't have anything in their stomach, and some people don't. And so you just kind of have to listen to your body. That's really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Anything else you would just share with those that are listening to this, especially if you were to think about a younger Emily or another Emily out there, and you were to think, man, this would have been so helpful to have heard when I was a little bit younger. I wish somebody would have said this, especially someone who's trying to live for the Lord. And part of how I'm living for the Lord is taking care of myself. I wish somebody would have said this to me and I knew this earlier. What would you say?
I think I've probably already said it in some ways, but just that God cares so much about your body, and it was just uniquely designed to live in a place where it was thriving. Like I always say with the meal prep company, like it's based out of John 10:10 because, we were meant to live abundantly in Christ. And that doesn't mean having it all or feeling good all the time. It just means that our content, like we are always content with Jesus, and knowing that he gave us this body to steward is such a blessing in itself. And I think that beforehand, when I was younger, I was just like, oh, I just got to I just got to do all these things and make it really hard so that I'm worth something. And I think that was not the fundamental reason why the Lord has ever called any of us to work out or take care of our bodies. I think it was to grow them in the same way we grow through sanctification, and so that we can use them to glorify God through our actions and our word. And so like when you're most fueled up, you have the most energy to give out what's in your heart, which is hopefully the word of God, to other people. And so I felt like that's when it really hit me how like the depth of this, like what I'm doing and how I like have reframed it in my mind really matters. I feel like God really spoke that to me, and I was like, I wish I'd known that earlier.
Well said, Emily. Well said. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, Dad, as we bring this episode to a close, what are some final thoughts you have that you think will be helpful to those listening?
I just want to say to people of all ages, but in particular, people somewhere around my age, I get it. I know that as you get older, you can become very resistant to the notion of really moving and exercising. Even if you're paying attention to what you're eating, sometimes your body's saying to you, yeah, don't get up and move. Sit down and rest. And while there is a time to sit down and rest, there's a time to get up and move. But if you kind of wait around until you absolutely want to, you might never get to it. But if you have a conviction that you have this one body that you are called to steward, that we are called to steward, and you present yourself as a living sacrifice, unto the Lord, God will provide the grace that you need to not only get going, but to keep going. So have an attitude of faith. If you say you can't, you probably won't. But if you say, I can do all things by Christ who gives me the strength, then you will. Pay attention to your heart. I don't mean your physical heart. Yes, pay attention to that. But pay attention to your heart's motives and desires. And make sure that that you're living a life that is yielded before the Lord, submitted to Him. If you find places of resistance and rebellion in your heart, deal with that. Deal with that. Because nobody can make you do this. This has to be something that you have a conviction about and that you're letting God give you the grace to do it. Pastor Joel already talked in a previous podcast about partnership, and that is so important. Find some people that can help you get going and keep going. And if you're saying, you don't understand, I have no history of this. I don't even know where to start. Just start somewhere. If all you can do is get up and walk for 10 to 15 minutes, you're on your way. You're on your way. And I guarantee you'll feel the favor of the Lord. You'll feel encouraged. Start working on getting to bed at a decent hour. Change something in your diet that is a positive move forward. What we're trying to do is inspire you to get started. Remember what we said at the beginning. The least you need to know to get started is the most you need to know to get started. And one last thing, if I might, that I would love to say to you. About 30 years ago, I heard the Lord say to me, if you will take good care of your physical body, when you get older, you will be able to take that brain that I will have filled with knowledge and renewed day by day by day, and you will have the body to take that brain to wherever I call you to go. You don't want to miss out on anything that God has for you in the future. Listen, as you grow older, you're going to increase in wisdom. You're going to increase in knowledge. You're going to increase in spiritual understanding. But it won't do you much good if you can't take all of what God has placed inside of you and get to the people that need it because you lack the health and mobility that you need. So now that I'm this age, I am so thankful that I heeded that word 30 years ago, because now I have the ability to move and to go and to get to the very people that can benefit from what God has taught me. So let that be a word of encouragement to you, but also a word of challenge. Get a conviction and then get moving in the Lord and watch what God will do as He uses you, not just today, but throughout all the days of your life.
One of the biggest messages that PD and I want to preach to the world is the by grace through faith message. That everything you do by the grace of God as you trust in Him. And if you don't hear anything else from these episodes, when it comes to how to cut through the noise of the world's ways of marketing health and diet and recovery and all this nonsense, if you can hear us say that in accordance with 3 John 2, it is God's will that you be in health and that you prosper, even as your soul prospers. If you can hear that it is God's will for you to be in health, then you know He's going to provide the grace for you to walk in health. And yeah, there will be times where you get sick. There will be times where you get injured. There'll be times where life gets busy or even tragedy strikes. But if you'll trust the God who loves you and who made your body, and you'll, as PD said, by faith, you'll engage these things, you'll find that His grace will fill your sails. And He will give you the resources. He will give you the time. He will give you the energy you need to be as healthy as you can be. in each season of life so that you can fulfill his call on your life and you can give an account to him for the deeds that you did in your body. Well, we hope that this has been helpful for you, and we hope that it gives you some wisdom to consider for living healthy as a Christian in every season of life. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our new episodes. If you'd like to support our ministry, head to lifereachresources.com or newsongnashville.com and click the Give tab to help us continue to bring Bible-based content to you and others around the world. Join us next time here on the Wisdom Words Podcast.